Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. May I never boast except in the cross of the Lord, through which the world has been crucified to me, and I to the world.
Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus and his disciples set out for the villages of Caesarea Philippi. Along the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" They said in reply, "John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others one of the prophets." And he asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter said to him in reply, "You are the Christ." Then he warned them not to tell anyone about him. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer greatly and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and rise after 3 days. He spoke this openly. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. At this he turned around and, looking at his disciples, rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan. You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do." He summoned the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and that of the gospel will save it." The Gospel of the Lord. As we hear this gospel today from Mark, we're reminded of two things. Number one, that Jesus is the Christ. And we can ask ourselves the same question Jesus was asking: who do people say that I am? Or who do you say that I am? And of course, being the Christ, they thought of him as the anointed one, the king who is to come, the Messiah, the one who would save Israel from temporal enslavement. What they did not realize is that he was not coming as a temporal or earthly king, but as a heavenly, spiritual king to lead us beyond this life to the next. And so as Peter started questioning him, as he said, "Well, I'm going to go and they're going to kill me. My life here will be ended." And Peter says, no, we can't let that happen. In a way, Peter was being selfish. Peter had plans for the Messiah. He had plans that the Messiah would be this wonderful person here to get them out of this enslavement to the Romans and give them the freedom that God had promised them from the beginning. And yet, that wasn't the plan. I don't know, I've mentioned this movie a couple times. It was actually a musical that was done and then recorded called The Cotton Patch Gospel. And in there, when Jesus starts talking about this, Peter, because it's based in Georgia, Jesus was born in Gainesville, and so it's a little different time. Peter was trying to work out this marketing campaign. How are we going to make Jesus look so great and help him come into his... But again, that wasn't the plan. The plan wasn't to be this great, long-lasting figure, but to be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed and rise after 3 days. That was the plan. When we look at our own lives, we too have plans not only for what the Messiah should be doing for us, but what our lives should look like, where we should be 10 years from now, or some of us 20 years back thinking where we should be 20 years from then. And we look at it and say, I had a plan. It wasn't God's plan. And this is where I am now. In 10 years from now, look back and say, that was my plan, but this is where I am now. Part of Jesus' plan for us is that we have to recognize that we have to deny our very self, take up our cross, and follow Jesus. And a cross isn't something that's fun to carry. Some of you guys want to just get an idea. Those, don't raise your hand. It's a rhetorical question. Those who are farmers or ranchers or have big dogs, and you go pick up that 50-pound bag of feed. You throw it on your shoulder. It's heavy, but nothing compared to the cross of Jesus. It's heavy, but nothing compared to what Jesus has planned for us. We carry our cross. Is it going to be a physical cross? More than likely not. It's going to be a cross that might have some impact on us. It might have something to do with our family life, the people we have to tolerate in our household or at work. It might have to do with our health issues. As we get older, we're not quite as spry as we once were. Not pointing any fingers at the class visiting today, but, you get the idea. The young people here, one day you're going to be thinking, wow, this is rough. But it's the cross you're asked to carry and offer it up for others as an example and witness to your faith in Jesus Christ. Jesus tells us that his yoke is easy and his burden light. To let us carry his load, and he will help us carry our cross. But it all goes back to recognizing who Jesus truly is. He wasn't, John the Baptist. He wasn't Elijah. He wasn't one of the other prophets. He was the Son of God, the Christ, the Anointed One. And that's who he still is today. He still is that one who leads us, carries our cross with us, and pushes us beyond the limits we think we have. And so as we reflect today on this gospel, let us step back and ask ourselves, what is the cross that Jesus is giving me to carry? How am I carrying that cross? Am I carrying it as a person of faith? Or am I carrying it as a person who sees it only as a burden? Hopefully, as people of faith, we realize it's a part of who we are. It's a part of our journey. It's a part of God's plan. And then to cooperate in that plan as we do what we can, working towards salvation. Just a real quick snippet back to that second reading, where Paul's talking about, show me your works without faith, and I will show you the works from my faith. that faith that allows us to do great things, whether it be service to the poor, service to the church, leading by example in our prayer life for others to follow. That is the faith we must have. So as a people of faith, let us trust Jesus to help us carry that cross, no matter how heavy it is, and realize it's all part of a plan for our salvation, which includes Jesus dying on the cross.